Hello, beautiful. Welcome to the She Sacral podcast. I'm your host, Lindsay Christian. If you are ready to shift your body out of survival and into a space of thriving as a woman, then you've come to the right place. Let's go ahead and get started with today's episode. Hello, Sacral Beauty. Welcome to the She Sacral podcast, the space to help women recover from burnout through the power of sacred pleasure. So welcome. Today we're going to dive in and talk about the frozen code, right? This is the second code of the sacral energy. And so we're going to talk more about what happens when burnout starts to shut down your emotional flow. And what happens when you feel nothing. You don't feel joy, you don't feel passion, you don't even feel anger or even sadness. You just feel absolutely numb. And so when your sacral energy freezes, it's not because you're broken, even though you can feel that way. It's because your body has been trying its best to protect you. So let's gently unravel why your pleasure and your expression have gone quiet, and how you can start to melt back into yourself again. All right, so let's dive in and talk more about what does it mean to be frozen. To be emotionally frozen means that you feel disconnected from pleasure, you feel numb to both joy and grief. Emotionally, you're just really in the space where there's just almost just no feelings. And energetically, the sacral chakra shuts down like a valve. So if you just could imagine water flowing from a faucet, and then water just completely stops. There's no water coming in. It is dry. Something is keeping that pipe from flowing. You may look functional on the outside, but feel empty and just emotionally flat on the inside. So you almost just feel like you're not even here, you're not even present. You might as well just be like a poster board cutout because you are shut down emotionally. And you stop feeling desire, not just sexually, but for life, for beauty, for art, and even connection. That is no longer priority for you. It's not important to you. You don't have the desire to. And sometimes we can say we don't have the desire because we're trying to protect ourselves, but sometimes we literally just don't have the desire. And so freezing is a nervous system survival response. And this protects you from overwhelm by completely numbing your emotion. But over time, not only will your nervous system shut down and numb your emotions, it's also going to numb your creativity, numb your intimacy, and numb pleasure. So life really starts to feel very dull. It starts to feel very colorless. And so let's talk a little bit more about how we get here. How does this even happen, right? So burnout starts to freeze your energy. How does it do this? When you're under chronic stress, this pulls your energy upward from your body, from your emotional body, into your mind. You start overanalyzing, overthinking. There's this mind-body disconnection that starts to happen. Over-responsibility and pressure to perform also begins to shut down self-trust. You lose that time to really think about what it is you want to do with your energy, how you're feeling in that moment. The priority becomes getting the job done over how you're feeling in that moment. You begin to confuse stillness with laziness or softness with weakness. And when we take time to just be still, stillness is still very active, ironically, even though it is still. It takes a lot of energy to maintain stillness because we have so much energy flowing within our bodies. To be able to hold yourself still for a moment intentionally is not coming from a space of laziness at all. Sometimes we just need these moments to be still, to quiet our minds, to create space to receive more guidance or relaxation or whatever our bodies, minds, and spirits need in that moment. Pleasure feels like a luxury to you, not a right. You start to feel like, well, I don't really have time for fun or feeling good. No, I got to get all this stuff done right now. I'll do the pleasure thing later. I'll feel better later when I get these things done. So if you notice that these types of feelings are coming up for you, maybe you're mentally overactive, right? You lack flow or inspiration. You start suppressing your emotions. Maybe you even start to feel guilty for wanting or needing anything, for expressing that you even have needs. This is a sign that you're in survival mode way too long. And when your body is in survival for too long, your body starts to forget how to feel safe enough to feel. It's really in the space of protection, but we want to be in the space of flow. When it comes to emotional signs of your sacral energy being in a frozen state, you may feel bored or overstimulated. Has that ever been a thing for you? Like you just feel so bored, but the moment you do something, it's too much for your nervous system. It starts to feel very chaotic really fast. So you kind of feel stuck in this frozen space. If you find yourself saying, I don't know what I want very often, or whatever, you do it, whatever, you pick, I don't care, right? Someone's asking you, well, what do you want? How would you like it? I don't know. I don't really care. You figure it out. That means I'm overstimulated. That means I'm overwhelmed. That means that my energy is freezing right now and I can't make a decision. It's not coming from a space of just being apathetic. We're really overwhelmed with everything. We're almost screaming for help. Please don't make me make a decision right now because I can't handle what is going on. It's too much. Tears may feel distant. It might feel really hard for you to cry. Or you might feel that you can cry really easily, like those tears are sitting right at the tops of your cheekbones right now, but you don't feel like you can fully release. You don't feel like you can just get it all out. Creativity starts to feel like pressure instead of pleasure. It's no longer fun being creative. It's like one more thing you have to do. And I remember being in this space as well, and it felt so strange and so weird because I am a highly creative person, which also means I'm a very emotional person, right? But I'm very creative. I love to create. And when I started to go into the space of freezing and the space of burnout, creating felt like such a chore. I felt so resistant to it. My nervous system, my mind was like, no, we're not doing this. I don't want to do this. And I was thinking to myself, like, why not? Like, remember, it's so fun. It's like, no, I don't want to do this. I know that it's fun. I know that we enjoyed it, but I can't bring myself to do it. So if you've been in this space and you're a natural creator, or you enjoy creating things, or you're an artist and you have ever found yourself in this space, know that you are not weird at all. This is totally normal for a nervous system that is frozen. You may find that you long for intimacy or sensuality, but you avoid it, right? Kind of like when you feel bored but overstimulated. Like you have the desire to feel, you want to feel, but you know as soon as you get into the thick of things, that is going to overwhelm you and your body is going to shut down. And so this isn't repression, it's protection. Your body is truly trying to protect you in this moment. And so your sacral energy is really waiting for proof that it's safe to come alive again. It's safe to come back out to the surface. It's safe to feel again. So if you recognize that these are resonating with you, then let's start to talk about ways that we can gently defrost this sacral energy and know that we can't just fix it, right? This isn't something to be fixed. We're not looking through the lens of correction. The only way to begin to melt that energy is to soften. So we're creating the right conditions for us to feel soft again. So you can do things like emotional check-ins and keep them as simple as possible. Asking yourself, how do I feel in my belly right now? Our bellies are one of the ways that really lets us know how we're feeling in that moment, whether we feel nervous or excited or tight, right? How does your belly feel right now? Incorporate more water. Water naturally softens the body. You know, when you take a bath for a long time, your skin gets all soft and wrinkly. Taking baths and showers with intention, putting a warm, damp cloth on your pelvic area or your womb space. These are ways that the body starts to soften. Sounds, whether it's sighing or humming, right? These are ways that the body starts to soften itself through the power of sounds. Have you ever noticed that unconsciously, if you feel stressed, you start humming and you just notice that in that moment of humming, the body starts to soften. Or if you sigh and you just like, you just let that go. That relief starts to come in as that tension that's been holding in your body starts to release after that sigh. The more you move your body slowly, swaying, more hip movements, maybe even some intuitive dancing with your eyes closed, not judging yourself for how you're dancing, but allowing your body to move. Practicing safe sensuality, touching different textures, experimenting with different scents and smells and sounds. Not for performance, right? This isn't, again, sensuality is not for performance. It is exactly what it means. It's activating the senses. And your senses allow for you to perceive the reality that you're in. That's what they're there for. So taking time to create the reality that is aligned with pleasure through touching things that feel good to you, smelling things that smell good to you, listening to things that sound nice to you. And although I'm sharing these simple tips with you and practices, we really do so much more in our 30-day pleasure challenge that you get access to so many different rituals, and you can really take your time with it and really help you to come back to yourself and to begin to melt that frozen sacral energy. If you've been in that space of survival and holding this energy, you feel so tight in your body, you feel overwhelmed, allowing for yourself to release and enjoy and have fun and feel supported is one of the best ways to get yourself back to yourself again, no matter how long it's been. For me, I was in a state of burnout for years, but I wish I had this challenge and this community and this podcast to help me through that experience. But here I am. I'm here to help you now. We're here to help each other along this process in life. And so with that being said, as we focus on melting back into flow, just a reminder that flow does not mean constant movement. And I think sometimes we perceive flow as that, like it's just always moving. But flow really means responding to what arises. Are we responding or are we reacting? Very different, right? Responding means that we're taking our time, we're being intentional, we're matching the energy of what's coming up for us, and we're almost solving or soothing in that moment of responding. It's coming from a very centered, grounded, and calm space. When we're reacting, oftentimes that reactivity feels very sharp and jittery, right? It doesn't flow. It feels very static. I just think of a lot of noise when I think of reactivity. And sometimes we're in environments that are so reactive that you become reactive. If you work in a company or job that is so reactive, everything they do is just in the state of reacting to what someone said or some new project that just came into your plate. It's like, hurry up, we got to get all this done, right? And it's just so awful for our nervous systems, especially when you work in this kind of space. So if you are in that space, I feel you. You're not crazy. I know what that's like. And so if you can find ways of responding even in a reactive environment, find your best way to do so and create those boundaries for yourself. Being able to respond requires for you to think ahead a lot of times, to be more proactive, to give yourself that space so that when those times come up, because you're prepared for them, you're not reacting. You can respond accordingly. Sometimes we even have to have more experience in that particular thing. We've already been there. We know what that's like. Nope, I can respond. I know what to do. I know what to say. I got this. You're allowed to respond when you're tapped into your own inner wisdom. So there's a lot that's there. But if we can get to a space of kind of thinking ahead, not overthinking, but being aware of different things that could come up for us and being prepared for it, will allow for you to be in that way of flow, right? I think a lot of times, especially in different spaces of focusing on feminine energy, there's so much emphasis on flow. Just flow, just, go with the flow. In order for there to be flow, there must be structure. There must be foundation. There must be more set in place before you can really flow. If you think about a river, the reason why there's flow is because there's boundaries on the sides that direct the flow, right? So there has to be direction in order for it to flow. The wider that space becomes, the less of there being a flow. You notice that the water just kind of starts to become more still and more stagnant because there's no direction. So in order for us to really flow, we have to have foundation. We have to have structure. We have to know where we're going. We have to be intentional. It's not just being out here aimlessly and passively just floating around in the wind. So we'll absolutely touch base on this later on creating more flow in your life because it's so necessary. Another way to melt back into flow is to start small, right? Just start small and tapping into your senses, noticing the colors that are around you, savoring the food that you're tasting. How does it taste? What are the textures in the food? What are the different flavors that are there? Feeling different textures and fabrics and allowing for yourself to really soak in that moment or that experience. The next thing is to let your emotions trickle back in, whether it's joy, it's desire, it's anger, it's even grief or sadness. Whatever those emotions you have, if you notice that they start to peak up a little bit, that is a beautiful sign that you're healing. The fact that your nervous system is allowing yourself to start to feel those emotions, even if it's just for a moment, means that your body starts to feel safe enough to release it. So it's a very powerful sign that you're actually healing. And so your job is to not shut those emotions down, but just to let them flow. And a lot of times, doesn't it seem like they just hit at the most inopportune time? I remember when I got acupuncture, when I was really in the thick of my burnout experience, and I felt so tight all the time in my body. And the acupuncturist did a lot of work on my neck area. And she's like, okay, I'll be back in a little bit. As soon as she left the room, I was bawling, like tears just pouring out. And I was just crying and crying and crying because I had just held so much in, feeling so much pressure, so much stress, and so many emotions, and so much I was just holding in that the acupuncture forced my nervous system to release that out. And so it was really, really powerful. So if you're ever curious about acupuncture or if you tried it before, comment below and just kind of share what you think about it. But for me, it was really, really helpful for getting my body back into starting to feel safe again. Absolutely. Because I couldn't do it myself at that time. I felt like I just had so many demands on me in those moments that it was really difficult for me to get myself in this safe space to release what I was holding. You also want to give your energy time to circulate again without expectations. So if you are working, right, or if you have a business or wherever your source of burnout is probably coming from, a lot of times when we give our energy, we're like, okay, I need to get something back, right? I put something out there, so I need to get something back. And just know that whatever energy you have, whatever energy you're in, know that that energy will circulate back to you. But that's the most important thing. It's the energy. It's not the actions. And we confuse the actions with the energy very often. So I want you to think of the energy you're in. That means if you're tapped out, if you're exhausted, if you don't have much to give, what do you think is going to be returned back to you when you're in that state? And you're probably like yelling at this podcast right now, like, well, what am I supposed to do? Like, I gotta get all this done. If I could just tell you just one thing, and that is, I don't know how many times that I have rushed and I have given from an empty cup and I have tried to push and do all this stuff and get all this stuff out there, knowing that I really was very depleted in that state. I really didn't receive much out of it. I really got back exactly what I put in, which was depleted energy. I got back more depleted energy. So if you can take some time to allow for yourself to feel a little bit more refreshed, start to change the way that you're doing things and stop draining your energy, you can then begin to shift and realign so that that energy starts to return back to you in the state that you sent it out in. Even if it's not for creative purposes, maybe it's the energy that you give out to your friends or your family or your children or your partner or your siblings or your neighbors or whoever. What is that energy that you're putting out there? And how is it being returned back to you? And so just to recap, if your sacral energy is frozen, it does not mean that you are a failure. In fact, it means it's your body's way of saying, I miss you. The first step is listening without trying to rush this healing experience, without trying to rush you melting and thawing out in this moment, but allowing for yourself to gently come back towards yourself. And so where in your body or your life do you feel numb? And what would it feel like to begin to return? All right. Well, if anything resonated with you in this episode, please feel free to leave a comment down below. We also do deep dives and chats after every episode in our community, and the link down below. So if you want to talk more and just have more discussion and conversation around it, feel free to click that link down below. So this concludes our episode on the frozen code. The next code that we'll be talking about is the creative code. And this is where we will explore how emotions become art, beauty, and expression when you're flowing again. Okay, well, thank yourself so much for showing up today. And thank you for tuning in to the She Sacral podcast.